Okay, I think we can cue the music into Gone. Thank you for that piece of music, the Dragon Ritual Drummers. Thank you, Utu Witch Doctor. And welcome, everyone. We had a late start due to technical difficulties. We've had some storms up here in Midland, tornado warnings, etc. Chris was having some technical difficulties, and well, we're here live now. So welcome, everybody, to episode, what is it, 30? No, 28.
27.
What is it?
27.
Okay, I'm ahead of myself. So it's Friday, October 27th in the witchy season. So welcome everyone who's tuning in. And I want to say welcome to Chris Allaun, who is our guest tonight. And also welcome to Jean-Jerome, my co-host. Welcome, Jean-Jerome.
Good boy, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hope everybody's doing well. And for the Canadian audience, I hope you've been able to weather today's storms in Ontario.
Oh my God. Crazy weather. So Jean-Jerome, I'm going to ask you if you could read the bio because I'm sitting in my kitchen today instead of in my living room. So, you know, in case you see a dog face coming up, throwing my underarm or something, it's because, you know, I'm in the kitchen and they want something, right? So, all right.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure to read our guest's bio. So Chris Allaun has been studying witchcraft and magic since 1992. He is an ordained pagan minister with the Fellowship of the Phoenix and is also a Native American pipe carrier. He is an initiate of traditional witchcraft as well. He teaches classes on witchcraft, magic, shamanism, energy healing, and necromancy. His goal is to help the community to reconnect to the three shamanic words for healing and empowerment. And he's also an accomplished author. He's also going to be talking about his soon-to-be-released book, The Other World.
Yes.
And we're welcome. Welcome, Chris.
Hi,
Yes.
how are you?
We're good. We're good now. We're all here. So this is a good thing. So yes, I'm looking forward to that book too. Thank you for sending us a small insert of that book there. Very good topics. I was saying to Jean-Jerome, I said, all of these things is totally what I'm into. Totally.
Good.
It's like, it fits. It's like a glove, right? So, and we see people already tuning in and saying hello and how are you and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start with our questions as we always do. So my first question to you, Chris, I know we've had our preliminary discussions and I'm looking forward to this show because you've got a wide assortment and I like that because you have a little bit of everything in there, you know, it's like having a good stew, you know. So anyway, so I'll start with my first question. At what age did you discover your ability to speak with spirits? Like what path did you find yourself taking to emerge as an otherworld communicator? Because this is what I think is key with you.
So for myself, I would say my entire life, I can actually remember when I was like, I want to say 2 or 3 years old. And the only reason I can remember so young is because it was a traumatizing experience. I remember, our house at the time had the front door had a window so you can see who was there, and I would see spirits show their face and wave at me and try to talk to me at 2 years old. Like I remember, and I remember the first time it happened, I screamed, and I remember my parents going, "There's nobody there." I'm like, "I am looking at them. They're right there," you know. And then my whole life, I've heard. This is gonna sound, you know, funny. I've heard voices. I've heard. I've had spirits in my home, ghosts, whatever. And I think it's a family thing because my mother had the
Yes.
same thing. Like she would always have spirits, and they used to contact the spirits on the Ouija board. And then
Oh,
I got deeper into it when I was like a teenager, and all things like that. So I've had them in my entire life, and I just assumed that everyone saw the dead.
I get it. I get it. Totally the same way in the sense that, you have those imaginary friends that you think everyone has, right? So I totally get that. Now, you said something about your mom used to actually use the Ouija board?
Well, she did when she was a teenager with
Ah,
with
I did too.
with her
Truth be
cousins.
told, I did.
Oh, I own like 4 of them. I think they're great. I actually collect antique Ouija boards. I think they're awesome. But anyway, and
Oh,
so,
wow.
huh?
I said,
Um,
oh, wow, I love it. What were you going to say, Jean-Jerome?
No, nothing. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought you were going to say something. I know.
Good.
My mom threw my Ouija board away.
Oh, my mom threw like 3 of mine away because the reason was because when he used to contact the dead, my cousin, so actually her cousin was a witch, so they would
Oh, cool.
gravitate towards her, and all of a sudden the house would be haunted again, and they would have to have it cleansed again. So then after a while, she was just like, okay, no more with the dead. But
Yeah.
she always had prophetic dreams. She always had a strong
Yeah.
intuition. In fact, my little brother, he sees spirits too. But my family's Christian, so they'll say, "Oh, it was the angels," or "Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus, let the spirit of so and so come speak
Yeah.
to us." And
Yeah.
so it's a very
Yeah.
like it has a whole lot of a folk elements in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I totally get it. Like that
yeah,
Catholic folk. I totally
yeah,
get that.
it's
I
weird.
know it was sort of the same thing with me too. It was like, I referred to them as angels, the ones that were always around me, right? They
Yeah,
were just all angels as far as I was concerned, right?
yeah.
So now with regards to that, so you obviously come by it honestly. You were born into that. Your family is of that same background. You're all very familiar with spirit and stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
how would you define yourself as far as your actual path? Like, at what point did you come to, let's say, paganism, or as a shamanic practitioner, or as a witch? Take me through that.
So I'm actually all of those things. I don't
Perfect.
know how just to be one thing or the other. So when I was like 16 years old, I found witchcraft. I studied all the books I could find at the time, and then
To do with witchcraft?
with witchcraft, yeah.
Okay.
And then a few years after that, I was formally trained, and I became an ordained pagan minister. And then a few years after that, I decided to do like energy healing and all that. And then it just so happened that my energy healing teacher is Apache. And so I was like, hey, I'm part Cherokee. I know it's not the same tribe, but I don't have, I wasn't raised in that tradition. So
Right.
she agreed to train me. And so she trained me in like a lot of the sacred songs and the sweat lodge, the pipe
Yeah.
ceremony. I've done vision quest, like all those
I
things.
love it.
And then throughout the whole time, I was always involved I mean, I've always had an inclination to the spirits of the dead. So
Right.
I did a lot of research and study about the ancestors, working with the dead, the underworld, and so forth. And
these were
yeah.
your ancestors. So when you say your ancestors, you mean like your ancestors, right? Your indigenous native ancestors. I find that's very interesting because I find most people, like we said, it runs in the family. And when you have that connection, and obviously I think spirit led you to be able to find the teacher that you
Oh
did,
God,
that
yes,
helped you with the
yes.
shamanic path. And we had that private discussion about your teacher, right? And we went into a little bit more depth with you know, all the things that she had told or taught you and everything. And I think that's key. That really is. I think that really was spirit talking, you know, through her to be able to connect with you, right? Because you have that ancestral link. So I think that's important, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, you're an accomplished author. You have written at least 4 well, no, you are. I mean, you've written 4 books and they're all wonderful topics, you know. Personally, I look at you and to me, I think of you as a shamanic witch. How do you feel about that? Is that
Same
a title
thing.
that you're comfortable
Yeah, same thing.
with?
So I'm trying to like really get away from the word shaman simply because it belongs to a
Absolutely.
specific people. So I'm trying to
Right.
say I like the term spirit walker because you walk with the spirits. However, just because, so sometimes I'm having a conversation. If I say that, they're like, "What's a spirit walker?" I'm like, "It's a shaman." Oh, so sometimes for clarification, I still use the
Right.
word shaman, but I'm really trying to slowly get away from
The
using
word shaman.
the word. Yeah, I'm trying to,
Yeah.
but for clarification
You know,
of communication, I'll still use it.
yeah, but you know, like when I think of shamanic witch, I don't think it's specific to any sort of way of tradition, a specific tradition, as much as it's embracing indigenous culture, in the sense of where your ancestral roots are, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I'm looking at it from that angle. But I like that word, the spirit walker, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You communicate. You've done that your entire life, right?
Yeah.
So let's get back to your books, because some of the other titles of the books, can you give us the titles of the other books? Because I think they're a lead up to your latest book, right? Because your latest book, honestly, I think that's a book that I'm going to have to put on my list to purchase.
So the first book that came out is called Underworld Shamanism, Myth, and Magic. The second book is a follow-up or a sequel. It's called Deeper into the Underworld, Death, Ancestors, and Magical Rites. And then the third is called Upper World, Magic and Shamanism of the Celestial Realm. And the brand new book is called Otherworld, Ecstatic Witchcraft for the Spirits of the Land. So it is a set, but they're all designed to be individual. So if you want to do the Upper World, just buy Upper World. If you just want to work with ancestors, then just get the Underworld. And this new book is going to be about fairies, elves, dragons, animal magic, nature spirits, shape-shifting, Mother Earth, all those things. You know.
Yeah, no, I really, really like it. And I like that it's like you said, it's like a series within itself. So to me, that whole series, like when I look at it, it is very shamanic in that way, you know, because you've got your upper world, you know, you've got your lower world, right? And right now it's that other world that we deal with on other realms, right? It sounds like a very good book. I think I'm going to put that on my list. Seriously, I am. And I don't say that often, right? But I do. I want to support our guests, right? And I mean,
I appreciate it.
your books are very interesting and your background is very interesting. And this is what I want people to know is your background, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm glad you said that, because like when I looked at that, I said, I thought, how do I define you? But to me, you are pagan, you are shamanic, and you're a witch. I mean, like
all those things. Yep.
You're all those things. I love that. Now, because it's written from, would you say your books are written from a shamanic perspective? And what are the
kind of ish?
Okay, so what are the cultures that inspired your spirituality to these books in particular? Because I noticed that there's a very strong Norse, but I want you to tell me about that.
Well, it depends upon the book. Each book.
Let's talk about your latest book, the one that's coming up.
So that one is it has 3 traditions that I follow. It is heathen. It's also Celtic, but I also throw in some Native American spirituality.
Yes,
there, especially the part about the animal helpers and your spirit animal and things like that, because I think that, especially my training in the Lakota tradition, they really have a very strong connection to the animal spirits, also the plant spirits, the tree spirits, and so forth. So for those are the 3, and these are the more from my perspective, they're very earthy. Can the book is supposed to be a spiritual representation of the earth itself. So those are the traditions I follow. Those are the traditions I've been working with for a long time. So I was just like, how can I explain about the other world, explain about the fairies, the elves, and so forth, and do it in a way that is a very congruent to my path, but what can also be used to help other people on their path. So it isn't like you have to be heathen or you have to be Celtic or whatever.
Absolutely.
These are just things that inspired me and just gave me some depth and can background the book.
No, because, I mean, I have nothing against people who follow one's tradition or the other. But let's face it, all of us who have come up through our magical paths and our spiritual paths, we stumble on these other paths, these other cultures. They influence us. We can't say that they don't, right? So having said that, heathenry had an effect, Norse, Celtic, and very much so your native background. What do you practice all of them in a sense? Like, what is your daily practice?
My daily practice is to wake up and have a cup of coffee. That's my daily practice. No, I try to do, so here's the thing. You don't do everything at the same time. So like, my daily practice is I will like do a daily smudge. I will give offerings of a smudge or smoke or whatever to the 4 directions and Mother Earth and Father Sky. But then I have a strong Greco-Roman aspect, and so I'll give offerings and prayers to for Diana, the gods of the moon, and then to my god Asclepius, the god of healing. And then I will take some tobacco, and then I'll say all the things I have gratitude for it, because in
wonderful
in the Native American tradition, you have to give gratitude. You have to. If you don't do anything else, you give gratitude and thanks. And so then I give the tobacco to the spirits, and I like bring down healing and energy, and I work with energy in my body for healing, and that's how I can begin the day. And then, depending upon the day, I may, like on full moons, I'll have my traditional witchcraft circle, and we'll go out into the forest and do all kinds of crazy things and shape shift and tread the hill and do magic and so forth. But in my traditional for craft, we have a strong heathen slant, so we'll call Helen for Hulda, and we'll use the runes and call the dragons and call the elves and things like that. And then, but other times I'll do a pipe ceremony. Sometimes I do it for the public. Sometimes I just do it for the spirits themselves and just have a ceremony for the spirits and that. And then sometimes I just bang on a drum and scream and sing and holler and do those things. So it depends upon what's going on. It depends upon if there's a holiday, a full moon, or whatever.
Right. Well, it sounds very similar to basically kind of like what I do too. You know, it's how I honor my spirits that are around me, obviously. And the sacred smoke, as you say, you know, the smudge, that type of thing. So when you do your daily ritual, it is always very sacred to give thanks, and that I think is very key and important, right? And when you're talking to your spirits, is this something that you do on a daily basis? And this is the spirits that are around you and also the ones you work with. Like, I know you work with deity, right? So do you honor them on a daily basis as well?
I do. I give them prayers and like smoke offerings and things. I have a bunch of helpers because I'm a massage therapist. I'm a spirit walker, energy healer.
Right.
So I also have the helper spirits I call and I talk to, and I'll say, "Hey, spirits, blah 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 blah. We're gonna do a healing today, and I need your guidance and your help." And so I will pray to them, and I'll give them like offerings and things, and then they talk to me. Sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I can tell this person has some problems in their heart, or this person has some problems in their hips," and so I'll work on the heart or work on the hip or work on the knee, whatever they tell me to do. I try not to.
So you have. Obviously. So you have an active practice then. People come to you for healings. That this is something that you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have clients. I also teach classes online. I do. I mean, it's an ongoing practice, you know.
Right. So let's talk about your practice and your certifications, because I know you have them. Your healing, they're in a healing modality as a death midwife and as a massage therapist. So let's talk about that before we get into your workshops, because I know you hold public workshops as well. Because I want to talk about the death midwife. I find this is very, we refer to them here in Canada as death doulas, right? So let's talk about that.
So the death.
What made you get into it? Sorry. Yeah.
How'd I get into it?
Yeah.
So I am a ordained priest with the Fellowship of the Phoenix, which is a LGBTQ pagan temple or church, whatever you want to say. And I've had, you know, my congregation or friends of friends, because they know I talk to spirits and I heal. So I've been called to death beds. I've been, I've held vigil for people dying. I also do a sort of energy healing at the point of death that we call POA. It comes from Tibet, and it helps the spirit
Transition.
For transitions out of the crown chakra.
Okay.
But anyway, because I've always done that, I decided to get certification through a dear friend of mine. Her name is Angie Buchanan, and she's an ordained minister of her tradition. It's called Earth Traditions, and they have a death midwife class and certification. So I took it, and part of it is the class itself. Yes, it talks about how to hold a vigil and how to do and how to be present for the dying and the family. But it also teaches you how to talk to people about the funeral, how to arrange it with the funeral directors, how to arrange it with the family. It also teaches you what you can and cannot do in home funerals and things like that. So you also learn how to be an advocate for the family, because I think, as we all when you're grieving, especially heavily, it's really hard to make a decision, especially because a lot of people, especially if you unexpectedly, you don't have a plan, and so you're trained to help people have a plan, and you're also trained to be present for the dying and speak with them and be with them and hold space for them. It's one of my favorite things ever in the whole wide world to do. And
it's an honor. It really is. It's an honor to be able to do that.
God, yes.
It's their last dying wishes, right? And you're there to help them with that. I think that's extremely important.
Absolutely. I actually don't have words about the feeling about being present and being there, just being with someone, because people grieve a different way. Sometimes the family's very quiet and very somber, and sometimes they're screaming and hollering, and you have to be able to switch back and forth depending upon who's doing the grieving and what they need at the time.
It's like you're the anchor. You really have to be an anchor in those circumstances, because I know, it's hard to detach yourself. Like, I know when both my parents died, we had to detach ourselves from our grieving time to be able to look at the more mundane, getting the casket, et cetera, all those things, right? And then focus back on our grieving period, and also to, welcome friends and family who want to come and share that moment with you. To me, I think being a death midwife or death doula is very important, because it helps the family, but more so, I think it would help the person who is dying, and that to me, I think, is key. I really do, because it's a scary moment for the person who is passing on, unless they're fully accepting of their death, there's still the unknown, right? So how do you deal with that in that respect?
You just have to take it as it comes, because you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't know, like, for example, if you ever in a situation where they have to turn off life support, sometimes it takes 3 hours, sometimes it takes 3 seconds. You have no clue, so you just have to be present, and you really have to, I think, really connect with your spirits, your guardians, your ancestors, because I think that you you cannot do this type of work without honoring your own ancestors and
Absolutely.
and working with those energies. And then you just you go in to a place of healing, and you know that place. It's like I'm about to do sacred work. I'm about to do
Absolutely.
a ceremony. I'm about to do whatever, you know. And as long as you have your spirits and you have that sacred intention, you're fine. You know.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes I've been taken off guard because all of a sudden I've had people just start screaming, but I don't. It doesn't upset me. I'm just like, oh, so I have to change my approach now, which is fine, because what happens is you have one family member who's quiet, another family member who's like crying, another family member who's in denial, another family member who processes differently in this way. And you have to be able to negotiate through all of that. You know,
wow.
And to be honest, I think all
it's hard
of being a priest and being a massage therapist, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of things happen, so I'm fine with it. It's okay. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that takes a really strong constitution for sure to be able to do that. So yeah. So how did you come upon your massage? Like, how do you approach your massage? You obviously had formal training as far as being massage therapists.
Yeah, you have to have all types of school and certification and exams and all types of stuff. So how I got it was very funny. I feel like every time I add something, the spirits are like, Chris, you have to check out so and so, because at the time I was probably 27 years old or so, and I was really tired of working in retail and things like that, and so finally I had a friend say, "Why don't you do massage therapy?" I'm like, "Huh, I never thought of that. I'll try it." And so I tried a class, and I thought, "This is so cool and so healing and so spiritual. I'm gonna be a massage therapist." And so that was 2003. So I decided that, hey, I'm gonna incorporate that into everything else that I do. And plus,
yes, it does carry over.
Heal people. You get to heal all day long. So it's awesome. Yep. I love it.
Yeah. I took massage therapy years ago too, and I found it always carried me over, that same sort of being present at the moment with someone when they're in pain or when they're having an emotional moment, because, you know, people sometimes think that massage therapy is just hands-on, you know, relaxation or whatever, but people come to you because they're in pain, and that pain sometimes is a result of emotional pain, and you have to address that, you know. It's not all just physical.
Quick interjection, Teresa. We're a couple of our guests are indicating, and I hear it. There's a background crackling noise. So not sure if it's the mic or one of somebody's mic, or if there's maybe a fan or something in the vicinity.
Chris, do you have?
I mean, I'm gonna silence your microphone for a second, Teresa, just to see if it's yours or Chris's. Okay.
Okay.
Say something, Chris.
Hello, hello.
A little bit more. No, it's still there. It's still there. It's still there. Okay, so let me just silence yours for a minute, Chris, for 1 second. Say something, Teresa.
Okay, so I'm okay. I wonder, is it my spirits around me? Are they coming in a little too loud or something? No. Well, maybe it might have been. So it's Chris.
It seems that it's on your side. So unless you have a lot of spirits right now that are gathered around you, causing a little bit of electromagnetic interference. But I don't know if you have anything else nearby that could be causing it. Oh, it stopped now. Oh, still a little bit.
To be honest,
Okay.
I hear it on your end as well. Every time you're talking, I hear it too.
I hear it occasionally too. There,
Okay,
see,
well,
when I talk or something.
Yeah, it comes up a little bit as well.
Well, all I know is that I know outside the wind is blustering out here, so it could be at my end. I don't know.
Okay, well, carry on.
So-
Carry on.
In retrograde. That's what it is.
That's it. That's it.
Retrograde.
That's what it is. We'll just go with it, you know, because I
It's a
keep hearing
retrograde.
it too. And I'm just assuming because, like I said, I mean, we've had tornado warnings here twice. Storms have blown through.
I'm
We've
gonna
had
try
power
to
outages.
move and see if it helps at all. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Did it stop?
Say something.
Testing, testing. I still hear it when you talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
So-
still hearing. So,
Yeah.
oh well. I
Interesting.
tried.
Okay, well, it could be again, Mercury retrograde and StreamYard itself that's having sound quality.
See, and I thought it was coming from you, Jean-Jerome, because your screen
No, I muted it.
sometimes freezes.
No, I muted mine. It's not that.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
That's okay. Well, we'll continue. We'll have to
Well, yeah.
work here with
We'll
it.
continue on. Okay. Sorry, Chris, to put you
No,
through
you're
all of
fine. I just
that.
had to plug in to my phone.
Okay.
I changed places to see if that helps. So,
Yeah. I think it's
anyway,
just the way it
what were you
is.
saying?
Yeah. What were we talking about again? Okay, so we were talking about
remember.
massage therapy.
Oh yeah,
And
massage.
I was saying that I had taken massage therapy and I found it carried me through a lot of things too,
Yeah.
because you're dealing with people's emotions and not just their physical pain. You know, there's emotional pain that comes with that, you know, and sometimes, you know, you're surprised by it. I don't know about you, but I remember one time massaging a guy. He was an athlete. And he had just finished, you know, his series of runs and things like this. And he's talking, and all of a sudden he goes completely silent. And I thought, oh, okay, you know, he must be really getting into this right now. And then he started to shake. And I thought, oh my God, like what's wrong? But I realized it was an emotional release for him. So I didn't want to embarrass him by bringing it to his attention. I just let him have his moment. And, you know,
Why are
he
you
was
crying?
yeah, why you cry? Do I make you cry? You know? But you know, you realize that that's sometimes what happens, you know, and you as a healer, whether you do massage therapy or, as you said, you know, dealing with people's emotions, especially during such an emotional time when someone that they love has passed away, you've got to be there, you know, front and center, and really kind of focus in on not just where you're coming from, but where are they at that moment.
Yeah, one of the things that people, including myself, when I first began, is you always think you have to say something to help. The best thing is just simply to be quiet and hold spiritual space for them. And that's
Absolutely.
it. If they ask you a question, you know, of course you're going to talk to them, but your job isn't to fix anything. You're not correcting anything. You're not healing anything. You're holding spiritual space. You're just being there. And to be honest, I think a lot of us need to learn how to do that anyway. Like, how many times have you been upset and you want your friend to be there, but you don't really want to talk about it? You just like, I just want someone here, and I want some green
Listen
tea.
to
That's
me.
all I want, you know.
Right. Just listen to me. Hold my hand, or you know, just listen.
Or just
you
have
know,
silence.
I don't want.
You know.
Yeah, I don't want input. I just want to be able to unload.
That's
you know,
right.
and that's key, Chris. I think when we talk about holding sacred space, people give lip service to it, but how often do we really understand what that means? And I thank you for bringing that up. Exactly. You know, is just to be there, to listen, you know, without judgment.
Right. Absolutely.
Without any interjection of your own emotionality, let that person have theirs, is really what it comes down to, you know. And I think that's important. So having said that, I think this leads us into your workshops, speaking of holding sacred space and how you do that. So tell us what your classes are about and what do you teach and offer?
Oh, that's so much.
I know, but that's okay. I'm all for it.
You name something, I teach it. So I teach everything from witchcraft to paganism to magic, and there is a difference between witchcraft and like magic, because what the difference is magic is more of a ritualized. Think ceremonial magic, think Kabbalah, think for Goetia, conjuring the spirits, a formula, circles, triangles, sacred geometry, things like that. Magic. Witchcraft is taking a cauldron and some graveyard dirt, screaming and calling the spirits. That to me is what the distinction is. And you laugh, but how many times have you got some graveyard dirt, screamed, and oh, here's a spirit. Whereas magic is you have to know the planetary correspondence, you have to know the 4 elements, you have to know what spirits or angels you're doing, you have to know for correspondences about the moon, astrology, all those things. But anyway, I also teach, of course, and ancestors, working with the spirits of the dead, things like that. Energy healing, all types of healing, everything from Reiki to quantum touch to chakra healing, blah, 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 blah. And then, what else do I teach? I have to think about it. Shamanism. I almost forgot. Shamanism. I can't believe I forgot that. What else?
Now, can I ask you something?
That's a lot. Yeah.
When you talk about teaching people shamanism, what type of shamanism are you teaching? Is it a certain tradition, or is it just in general?
It's a very generalized. Like, I'll teach people about the 3 worlds. I'll teach people how to journey. I'll teach people about power animals and animal helpers. I'll teach people how to have like spirit contacts in all 3 worlds, like an ancestral teacher, a nature spirit teacher, a divine teacher, or an angel or God or planetary spirit or something. And then I'll teach like soul retrieval. I'll teach how to do ceremonies. Like, one of the things I teach is basically, once you have all these spirit contacts and you know how to journey, you know how to do healings, I teach how to come up with the ceremony designed to help heal someone. So, for example, if someone says, "Hey, Chris, I feel like out of sorts. I need a soul retrieval. I'm not sure. I just feel sick. I might have this disease or that disease." And then I'll teach people how to hear all this, and by having a relationship with their spirits and things and their ancestors, how to come up with a healing ceremony for that person that's designed for certain individual needs. You know, so it's
to tune in. It's like tuning into their own needs, especially during their illness, right? Yeah, and that's important too. You're able to do that because you're a healer, and that's what makes it easier for you, you know, to be able to guide someone towards that. So it's really, it's like a one-on-one. It's very individualized, right?
Yes.
Okay.
A part of the reason I do that is because a lot of teachers, workshop, books, whatever, and they teach things like, oh, here's how to have your spirit animal. Here's how to journey. Okay,
Right.
that's it though. I'm like, how do we help people? How do we help ourselves? What do we do? How do we honor the spirits? And so over the years, I've designed classes about how to teach people how to put things into practice. Because I remember
Right.
being so frustrated about
Yes.
have all these great
Yes.
teachers, but they don't teach you how to put it into practice. I'm like, no, what do I
Thank you.
do now? What do I do now? It's kind of like, okay, you graduated college, but how do I go to work? You know, how
Yeah.
do I?
Like, how do I go find that job? Right.
Yeah,
Like
I
it's
teach
those
that.
key things, I think
Yeah.
that's important. Let me
So
talk a little bit
if I
about,
can, if Teresa, if I can interject one sec. Uh, Quick question, Chris. If for those people tuning in,
Mhm.
you mentioned a term which is not very commonly used in as many cultures, many practices, but it's very interesting. I think it's worthy of further definition and also clarification. Um, and that is soul retrieval.
Yeah.
yes.
If you can define
Let,
it, and also from which cultural axis or spiritual axis you do that practice. Was it from from the info of Lakota? Was it from another ancient practice, indigenous practice? Like, where does the soul?
So,
That's not a very common
so
trait.
soul retrieval, you rarely see it in a Native American practice. At least I haven't ever seen it or heard of it. How I was actually trained, of one of my very, very, very first teachers, he is he was a druid, and so his brand of soul retrieval comes from druidry and Celtic things like that,
interesting.
and so that's but the formula is basically the same as neo shamanism or indigenous shamanism or whatever, and so people understand what a soul retrieval is. I think they need to understand what the difference is between the spirit and the soul. So the spirit is the core, who you are, who is very refined, who that goes on to life after life after life. Once you are a spirit or
Right.
whatever, it cannot be destroyed, right? A soul is
Right.
kind of like the housing of the spirit. So it's who you are. It's the I. So, for example, it's your emotions, your memories. It's
Your
my life
individuality.
experiences. Is my desire. Is my hopes and my fears. That's the soul. So think of it as a glove for your spirit. And that being
Spirit.
said, sometimes when you have trauma or a car accident or something happens, or you're into shock, shock can do
Mm-hmm.
this too. A piece of that soul, that's the glove. It isn't the spirit, but a piece of that glove breaks off, and the reason it
Shattered.
does that, it, it shatters a little bit. Got the entire thing, but a piece of it. And the reason it does that, it's a trying to heal itself. It's trying to protect aspects of the spirit or the mind or the consciousness, protected from a trauma. And we know that happens all the time in psychology. So, like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, when people go under hypnosis or get therapy, all of a sudden people are like, oh my God, I forgot that trauma happened when I was 8 years old or when I was 12. I completely block that out. How many times do we say that, right? So what
Yes.
happens is
Blocking that out.
yeah, a lot of people who um, a lot of teachers, when they teach about soul retrieval, they always teach it as there's something wrong with the soul. There's something wrong with the spirit, and it isn't. It's a healing practice to take that aspect of the consciousness to some place in spirit to where it will be safe until the other part of the consciousness has grown and healed enough for that soul piece, for that piece of consciousness to come back. Now, my job when I do something like that is, first thing I do is energy healing. I don't do any retrievals until we heal the chakras, do healing, do spiritual counseling, and then I'll talk to the spirits and see if it's okay to do a retrieval. Once I get the okay from their spirits and my spirits, because we're all a team.
That's right.
I'll go and find the soul shard, bring it back, and then when I incorporate it back into their spiritual self, I do it in such a way that's gradual. So, for example, I don't like, here's your soul back. Ah! It's like, okay.
Yeah, you're healed. Bang, whack in the head.
Let's incorporate that aspect of her consciousness and their soul back into their energy body, back into their consciousness, and slowly integrate it. And I tell them, hey, you're probably gonna have some crazy dreams. You're gonna have some memories. You're gonna remember things. Sometimes it isn't comfortable. So I don't say when you leave the office, you're gonna feel amazing. If anything, you're gonna feel like, what the hell did I just do? Because it's kind of like you have to clean out the dirt, irrigate the wound, stitch it up, and put a bandage on it, and you're like, that was sore to do all that. But in the long run, it's better for your overall healing and things like that.
Right. Now you take them through each of this.
And the question is, which that basic approach or that basic understanding of the role of the soul, and I like how you define the soul as being the glove to the hand, right? Because it's very that little segment, that little snippet, is very similar to the concept of Ori or Ori as being the soul, and it is the head that encompasses all these spiritual aspects and entities that form your overall makeup or spiritual makeup, right? So that concept of glove to hand as container, the head to the as the soul to containing the Emi, the spirit, the Ori Inu, the inner spirit, your ancestor Joto. Eventually, also if you do crowning of Orisha, your Orisha inhabits there. Very, very similar. As you're a first guest that has I've heard mention that specifically. So that's why I need to ask, which tradition did you gain that particular piece of knowledge from?
Right.
That's from your Lakota teachings, I would say. So I want to get into No. You said Druid, right?
Because one of my very first teachers was a Druid, and so it's from that.
Interesting.
Because you have to remember, technically, even though the Lakota it's an indigenous spirituality, they don't do a lot of shamanism per se, but there are a bunch of parallels. Like they do have animism. They do honor the earth. They honor. Well, not all of them have the three worlds. Like a lot of the tribes don't have a concept of the underworld at all. They have a concept of the spirit world. Like a lot of times, especially in Lakota, you either go beyond the veil or into the spiritual plane, or your energy is gathered with the energy of the earth itself. So that's why whenever the tribes were like told to leave their ancestral home, it was traumatic, not just because, oh, we have to leave our home, but they were leaving thousands of generations of ancestors because the ancestor joined with the earth itself.
Ashe. Ashe.
That
Very
link
much
to the land.
And that's very much the indigenous belief and practices of in Vodou and Arbasa and Vodou and also in Orisha. And one of the reasons why when the slaves were being taken from West Africa to they were told to circle the tree of forgetfulness and the ancestors so that the pain of the separation would not be so severe. Right, so that they would not hold on to, then they would forget certain things to provide, a buffer of healing for the person leaving, and so that as well some of their greater secrets would not be taken or taken over by the slave owner. So it's very interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I like the parallels. The very few books I've read about Ifa and the food who I did see the resemblance in that. I always found that was interesting, though. I feel like how there's a parallel because we're doing it right. I love how different cultures who got into the last 400 years never had interaction with each other, but they had the same spiritual thought. I love it.
Correct.
Interesting, isn't it?
I love
it. Really is.
Because basically what you're describing and many of the things you deal with, whether it be the ancestral work, the energy work, we are talking about perceptions and informed cultural perceptions or descriptions for phenomena that exist, whether you're in one religion or the next, right? The same way that human beings have, a heart, lungs, blood flow, and all that. The spiritual world has a lot of the same basic components.
Absolutely.
And same phenomenon. So whether you're in China or in Japan or in France or in Canada, you drop an apple from a tree and gravity will take it and it'll hit the ground. And a lot of those phenomena that you're describing, that's why I asked you to bring forth a little bit more of an explanation on this movement, because as I said, that is an element which is, very similar, although we term it differently. But that is when we do work on Odi, when we do Odi Bibo, or when we feed Odi, the Odio Day, the temple of Odi, it's essentially to retrieve, to repair, to realign the person's soul, Odi, with the ideal Odi, the one which has been basically prepared and consecrated in order to be in alignment with your destiny, which is defined by the Odu Bifa that you came from heaven to earth with, right? So very interesting.
Very cool.
No, interesting. So I want to backtrack a little bit to one of your other.
I'll be right back.
Okay. I wanted to backtrack to one of the things that you had mentioned with your classes and workshops, healings with quantum touch. Can you talk about the quantum touch? I'm kind of familiar with the quantum touch, but if you could give us a definition of what that is and how you go about teaching that.
Well, quantum touch, to be honest, is a very, very simple modality. It uses the earth energy to heal. And the science behind it, and I put it in quotes because, we're trying to figure it out. But we also, it's not perfect. But anyway, the science behind it is that the regenerative life force of the earth, we summon to stimulate the healing aspect of the body. So, for example, your energy body, your cells, your organs, your tissues, and so forth, we all have the power to heal. right? But sometimes
Yes,
we
we
have
do.
to, for sometimes the earth energy can help us jumpstart that healing, because sometimes we don't heal so fast, and that could be because of trauma, that can be because of stress, that can be because we haven't slept correctly, or we're having this or having that, and we need some help. We need some jumper cables. So
Mhm.
earth energy just helps people heal. And they call it quantum because it's the idea. Now, this is how okay. So, in quantum physics, a quantum is actually a part of time, right? It's a quantum is a measurement of time.
Sorry, excuse me one sec. The winds are really, really bad out here. Something banged against my house. I'll be right back. So, Chris, I just wanted to acknowledge Christine Shugabilska had said that she hears clicking. Again, Chris, I think it might have something to do with the weather outside. I really think it's coming from my end, but I'll be right back. Continue. Sorry, Chris.
No, you're fine. But anyway, how they explain the quantum in healing, it's the bridge between energy and the physical body. So they say that quantum healing is the spiritual bridge that brings the spiritual plane or the spiritual healing to the physical stuff. So that's how they explain the quantum healing. I mean, it's very simple. It's very fun. I enjoy it. I don't use it all the time, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay, very interesting.
Oh, it's really windy out here, so my apologies. It's like seriously windy out there. Okay, folks.
Your tornadoes and my computer problems.
Good old Mercury. Good old Mercury.
Oh, Mercury.
It's a fantastic show.
Yay!
Everybody say it's a fantastic show, but we have to have a little sprinkling of static and Mercury's flavor.
Pretend it's like fairy dust. I'm pretending it's fairy dust every time I hear it.
Thank
There we
you,
go.
thank you. Well, I wish the fairies would take the dust and the branch that hit my house. Thank you very much. Away. Oh man.
Oh,
Anyway,
by the way, if you find some trees or branches that was struck by lightning, keep it, because in Lakota, it's
yes,
believed to have lots of healing powers.
yes.
So
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
Should I keep the ones that have been knocked down by the wind as well? Because I've got a lot of those.
You could. I mean, you could. It's got the same energy, but you could. Yeah. I mean, it's still the spirits. Yeah.
Okay. So before we get into, I wanted to ask you, talking about your Lakota traditional teachings and how you link with your ancestors. I want to take it in through working with the dead. Okay, that's one of your workshops that you offer. So let's talk about working with the dead, and how does that come from your Lakota teaching, and how you link with your own ancestors?
So it just basically comes from my own magical practice, and it comes, to be honest, from witchcraft. Because the
Okay,
type of witchcraft that I was trained in, it's really heavy.
necromancy.
Yeah, that's part of it, but it's a very ancestral heavy. Like, so for example, every single day I have to talk to my ancestors. I have an ancestral shrine, and I pray for them. I don't pray to them. I speak to them, but I pray for them, and I give them offerings and things. And whenever we're doing a ceremony like in witchcraft, we always call the ancestors to participate. We don't say, come just be with us. We say participate, like speak with us, dance with us, do magical with us, help us with the divination, help us to call the spirits and things like that. And but it goes even deeper than that. And I've been speaking with the ancestors, and plus I've been doing a lot of research, like a lot of research. It's everything from the Greeks to the Egyptians to the Lakota, the heathens, the Celts, Shinto, which is a Japanese and
Yes.
practice.
Yes.
And so I learn from other cultures, and basically what I do is I don't say, hey, Japanese tradition, I like what you do, so I'm going to appropriate. I don't do that. What I do is I find the common thread. Like, I'm like, oh, every tradition gives offerings to the ancestors, so I'm going to continue to do that. Oh, every tradition journeys with the ancestors, I'm going to do that. Oh, every tradition, they call the ancestors to facilitate healing for someone, so I'm going to do that. So between my training and all the research I've done, that's where it comes from. And so the things that I teach how to honor your own ancestors. I also teach how to summon the spirits of the dead to in your magical ceremony. I teach how to speak with them in oracles and like divination. I teach how to conjure them for like spells and magic and even curses sometimes. But to clarify, whenever I do a curse, I would say it's more appropriately justice magic. Like, for example, we had a let's just say a killer on the loose here, and he shot 3 people at random, and so I opened up a portal to hell, and we haven't heard from him since. Done and done.
There you go.
But that type of a curse isn't like, oh, I'm upset at that.
Yeah,
stranger.
it's not petty. It's justified.
It has to be justified, and I
Absolutely
was trained in the craft that as a person who has the power, it's your responsibility to do the justice. If you don't protect the community, the spirits will actually come after you because you hold the magical key, and yet you don't protect your own people. No. That's really bad. So you have
good
to.
point.
You have to.
Good point.
It's kind of like if you ask
defense.
If you ask, like, let's just say, an army military person who's armed to protect you, and they don't, well, then they're in trouble now. You know, same thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. I totally understand that, and I totally get that. No, that's exactly how I look at it. So, Chris, can you tell us a little bit more about your Lakota traditional teaching and how you link with your ancestors? Did this come to you at an early age, or was it from that teacher who had taught you?
I was 31 years old, and it again, it fell into my lap because being a massage therapist, I had to have classes to keep up to date with my licensing, and I took a Reiki class actually, and the Reiki teacher, her name is Billy Topatate, and she's Apache, and I'm like, oh, do you teach classes on Native American spirituality? And she goes, I can absolutely teach you. And I was just like, even though I've got blue eyes and lighter skin, I do have a lot of Cherokee blood. And she was just like, no, I'm going to teach you because my spirits say it's okay. So I'm looking at your spirits and I see the connection there. So I learned the Lakota through her, because so my grandfather, who was 100% Cherokee, he died of a heart attack in 1969, so about 6 years before I was born. And so the family never practiced anything, and we weren't on a reservation or anything like that. But even before he died, he came from a generation to where you didn't talk about it, and if you did, you might get thrown in prison, because when he was a child, it was 1912, when he was like 4 years old, and so he left the reservation, because he didn't have anything. He didn't have any options, actually. So he never talked about it. He never cared to follow the tradition. But I did. I had that need to, I feel a deep calling to
connect with your ancestors.
To connect with those ancestors and connect with those spirits. And so I met my teacher, Billy. And it was funny, because the first thing she teaches is she's like, I'm going to teach you how to smudge. And I said, oh, I know how to smudge. And she goes, no, you don't. Let me teach you how to smudge. And so she did. And it was a ceremony. It was beautiful and very heartfelt. And I was like, wow, just a smudge is a whole ceremony in itself. All you need is a smudge. Because you call the spirits and you connect and you speak with the spirit of the sage and you connect with that, and then you cleanse yourself and give to the 4 directions, and it's connection, 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 pray, 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 pray. And that's
Thank you.
Smudge.
Thank you.
And so the second thing she taught me was the Eagle Song, and in Lakota there's about 25,000 Eagle songs. So, and that was just like, so I want to get to the cool stuff. I want to get to the sweat lodge and the pipe and the eagle feathers. And she's like, no, just you have
baby
to learn
steps.
The so I learned this song, and I remember thinking, I want to get to the meat. And after I practiced that song for weeks and weeks and weeks, it was one song. Fun. She was just like, okay, now you're going to put the two together. You're going to do the smudge, and you're going to do the sacred song. And then I remember closing my eyes and singing this song, and I just saw in my mind's eyes all the ancestors all around me. And I said, Billy, I'm singing ancestors. And she was like, oh, keep going, keep going. She's like, don't stop, keep going. And so I was like, okay. And I'm like, wow. And then she was explaining to me how the healing, how the power comes from your heart. It goes into the drum, and the beater is like it's your sense of your connection to everything, like a little tree of life. And when you're beating the drum, and as you're sending this song and this healing into the drum, it amplifies it 100-fold and calls all the spirits, and that's how you heal in that tradition. And I was just like, wow,
one
song did all that. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. And they have how many Eagle songs? Like, oh my God.
There's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons, because I know about 4 or 5 Eagle songs, but I mean, altogether, I think I know about 30 or 40 songs of all types of songs, like ancestor songs and grandfather songs and Mother Earth songs and spirit songs and whatever. But I have about 4 Eagle songs in my repertoire, whatever. But there's tons and tons. I mean, you can actually Google Lakota Eagle song. You'll find a brand new one every day.
Wow. So do you still keep that ceremony going yourself at any point in time in your life? Is that something you still practice?
I do it.
Perfect. I love it.
All the time. Sometimes if I'm in a park or I'm walking, and I'll say, well, this place feels holy to me. I won't have a drum. I won't have tobacco. I'll just sit there and I'll tap on my leg and I'll start to sing the song. And here come the wind. Here come the spirits. And I was like,
Wow.
all you need is, you don't even need a drum. You need yourself. You need your heart, and you need your connection to the earth, to the air, to the tree. And that's all you need. That's really
Absolutely.
all. Yeah. I'm getting excited
Absolutely.
just talking about it. I'm like, oh, I'm reliving it. I'm there again.
I love it. No, I really, really enjoy that, Chris. Thank you. You know,
Yeah.
and it's funny because we talked about you in our pre-show and your connection to the Lakota and being also of Native background. And you said your brother, who looks completely different from you.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, here we are, we're looking at you, blonde haired, you know, lighter haired, blue eyed. And it's like, who are we to judge, right?
So my brother has pitch black. When I mean pitch black, I have never seen blacker hair than him.
Wow.
He has brown eyes, but I have the darker skin. I mean, it's not real dark, but I have the darker skin. And he is pale as a ghost white. Like white. Like, it's weird. I'm just like, how are you so pale? And like thick black hair. And I have like brownish blonde blue eyes, and I have the darker skin. It's genetic. So someone was explaining to me how genetics actually work. It's like Mother Nature puts all your background in a martini shaker, shakes it up, and pours some on all your siblings. And did you know you don't have to have the exact same genetics as your siblings do? Like, for example, you will have similar DNA, absolutely, but you may have brown eyes. Your brother would have blue. You could be tall. Your sister could be short. You could have a different this, different that. And it's also interesting because how it was explained to me is this. Oh, I think we lost our history. Comes back.
We just had one of those moments.
But see how you're down there. I got to look at you up there. You're playing music. Oh,
how'd you do that, Chris?
It's magic.
It's magic.
It's magic.
This is a magic show.
Oh, I really hope that we can do more magic than that.
I'll give it with a little bit of crackling.
We do, Chris. We do.
Anyway, but genetics are strange and weird and cool, but you know, yeah.
No, for sure. So, Chris, I loved our conversation here. I'm going to have to turn it over to Jean-Jerome. Oh, you're going to kill me for saying that.
Somebody's watching you, Teresa. You're an inside joke with me.
So I'll let you take over a little bit here, Jean-Jerome.
That's like 20 minutes.
I know. I always hog the show.
So, Chris, question. You made references, actually a few questions. You made references a lot to a traditional witchcraft.
Yeah.
Interestingly, because we've had these conversations with other guests in terms of the emphasis on ancestors not being there. But yet in your traditional witchcraft, lineage, or whatever you want to call it, there seems to be a preponderant or an emphasis.
Oh my God!
May I ask, from what origin? Again, what tradition or what lineage or what locality does that tradition come from?
So, for me, I was trained and initiated in a Welsh tradition, but I kind of, I hate to say broke away. I don't want to say like it's a bad thing. I evolved into my own flavor, let's put it to you that way. And I went to more of a heathen slant. So, for example, we one thing you have to know about Welsh traditional witchcraft, and I don't want to speak for everyone. The lineage that I'm from is it's a very strong in the Anglo-Saxon tradition, so it's kind of like a hodgepodge of uh, of, of Celtic spirits and like Anglo-Saxons, say like Odin and Thor and things like that. But for me, I really like having a more heathen slant to it. Partly it's because I have a lot of German blood. So we work a lot with the goddess Frahulda, who to us is kind of like Hela, the gods of the underworld. And we work a lot with the elves. We work a lot with the dragons, the ancestors, and things like that. One of the things that's helpful to know about traditional craft is that it wasn't like, Celtic paganism or heathen paganism. It was kind of a blend between Judeo-Christian concepts, paganism, and like some of the cunning crafts. When I say cunning crafts, I'm in the old folk healers. Think about the 16th century person who had the herbal potion and who would heal your ailments. And the reason that happened is because a lot of traditional witches, that's how they paid that's how they got money. And so if you showed them a spell or a magical technique that was strong and powerful, sure,
Right.
they'll use it. So they weren't purists. You'll never hear a story about a traditional witch in the 17 or 1800s saying, no, it must be pure English or else we won't use it. It's a hodgepodge of things,
Absolutely.
and if you read some of the history and the archaeology and some of the old books, and to be honest, I think there's also an element of like mythology in there too. Like, we were taught this by Odin. No, you made that up, which is fine as long as you get results. I teach all of my students, whatever I teach you, and you want to change, as long as you get results, I don't care what you do. I mean, it's your path,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're ancestor heavy because in the traditional craft that I was trained in, it was very outside witchcraft. The only time you went inside was from like late November till spring, and even then you dress for the occasion. I remember telling people in my circle, okay, wear appropriate shoes, because I can remember some of our younger people had fashionable shoes, and then they're upset that, wait, we're actually going 2 miles into the forest on a rainy evening? Yep, we sure are. So they only wore inappropriate shoes the one time. But like some of the things, it's we have a concept in our in our craft that's called the grave, the shore, and the hill. So the hill
what?
is the grave.
Can you say that again?
Yep, the grave, the shore, and the hill.
The grave, the shore, and the hill.
Okay.
So the hill, that's where you commune with the gods, the planetary spirits, the angels, stuff like that. The shore, the seashore, is the place of the other world, the elves, the fairies, the other world beings, because the seashore is, you're not in the ocean, you're not on the earth, you're in between. And then you have the grave, and the grave is, of course, the cemetery. So those were the three places that in my tradition that you did your rituals. So we were off in the graveyard at night at 2 a.m. dancing around graveyards, calling spirits. you know, or you went to the seashore, and I'm in Chicago here. We have Lake Michigan, so
Yes.
there's shore, but you can also use the forest too. Like, for example, I'm sure there are lots of people going, I don't live by a shore. Then you can use a field, or you can use whatever.
You can use a river as well.
Absolutely.
A river.
You can use a river or a lake or a pond. But if you don't have those things, you can go out to the forest or a field or something. I will say one of the coolest ceremonies we ever did, because there's this field, and it was about October-ish, maybe, and it wasn't freezing, but there was a chill in the air. And there was one black tree in this giant field on the full moon. And this tree had lost all its leaves. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to dance around the history and call the spirits. Hell yeah. And so it was so cool and so powerful and just so, oh my God, I loved it. So, you know, it's the other thing that sometimes we have brand new people join us, and I hear this all the time. Do I have to go skyclad? I'm like, traditional witches don't do skyclad. Not that we have a hang up about it, but it's cold in Europe, and so we're not going to be naked. Hi, I live in Scotland. Let's take off all of our clothes. No. We had our clothes on.
Hell no.
Well,
That's
plus,
done indoors.
I enjoy doing rituals and ceremonies in like October, November, or whatever, and it's cold. And plus we're outside, and I don't want to get arrested.
You put your robes on and you go outside. That's what I've always done.
And grab some graveyard dirt, throw it in a cauldron, and scream. So that's going to be my official spell for the evening.
Graveyard dirt and scream.
So that now, in terms of you made a reference. So, given the different traditions that you have, studied, and again, looking as you do, doing comparative analysis and incorporating constructs that are common and that fit with your spiritual path and what you do, and that underpinning of the ancestors. So, two questions from that. One, have you in this long journey you've had, and diverse journey, have you been able to identify your primary ancestral spiritual guide? Do you believe in one ancestral spiritual guide, which is your main guide, and they basically whose mission your mission and your destiny sort of intertwine in this life? Is that part of your belief, or has been part of your experience?
It is. I think so this is kind of a two-part thing. The first thing is that all the spirits on your ancestor altar should be able to help you in the spirit world. I mean, some of them have more ability than others, and some of them are more active than others. But I actually teach. I talk about it in my first book, I think, or the second book, and Deeper into the Underworld. I talk about an ancestral teacher. An ancestral teacher is basically, for lack of a better term, an ancestral spirit guide. And so I teach how to journey and go to the underworld and find an ancestor who's been an ancestor for a long time and are spiritually evolved, and they can help you and navigate the underworld. They can help you work with the spirits of the dead and all sorts of things, And so, to answer your question, I do believe in one powerful ancestor who can help you. It's almost like a matriarch for me. It's a female.
Or main guide?
Yeah, main, like ancestral guide.
Spirit guide, okay.
But it isn't like my grandma. It's my great.
Right. Yeah, or perhaps even someone that's not even directly blood related. It could be somebody
for
who's
myself it
in your
is.
facility. Right? For yourself, it is? Okay.
For myself it is. I don't think. How do I feel about that? I actually think that it's better to have it be blood, because it's your family. They want to take care of you. Um, but that's just how I feel about it. If a person says, "Hey, I found a spirit of the dead who isn't blood, and I have a strong connection, and they want to be my spiritual teacher," I don't see the harm in that at all. But for me, I like the strong feeling of blood connection. I mean, I just feel drawn to that. So for me, I really like it to be family. Absolutely.
Okay. And then the corollary question, although different, and within these different traditions, what has been your, let's say, conclusion, but what is your understanding of, and you made reference to it about, you use the word hell or going into the, into the abyss, that it says to seek the energy to do it for justice sake. What is your concept of that dark part of the spirit world? Or let's say some people use different names. Use hell. Some people use, just the dark spirits or the
Yeah,
spirits.
yeah. So in ceremonial magic, we do believe in demons and a concept called the Kelly Pot, which is the inverse of the tree of life. I don't like to use the word hell because in heathenism, hell is a goddess. She's a goddess of death. I don't use hell. I may say Helheim, which is the land of the goddess of death. I'll do that.
Right.
But for the darker places, I usually call them the shadow lands
Shadow.
or
Okay.
or the abyss. But to me, the abyss is something different. The abyss is nothing. It's blackness. It's nothing. But I do believe in the shadow lands and places where darker spirits are. I do believe that there are primal spirits who are harmful to people. I don't think they're fallen angels. I think that there are very ancient spirits who roam the earth. Think acid rain, man, acid earthquakes. Think of volcanoes, dinosaurs, the formation of the earth. So obviously, humans can't survive that. It isn't hospitable to us, and so that is what people refer to the old spirits or the old God or whatever, or the
Primordial
type hell. And so, of course, when the earth evolved and had like animal life and so forth, those primal spirits had no place to go. And so I actually don't think that they were thrown into the underworld and locked away. I think they retreated. I think they're like, we're bored here now. So we are going to go and go into the underworld, and sometimes they come out and cause ill health for people, but I don't think they're evil spirits. I just think they're darker spirits who don't belong here, and we have to send them home. Because there have been several times I've had a client who's like, "Chris, I just feel bad. I feel sick. I'm losing weight." I'm like, "Ooh, I'm seeing a spirit who's attached to you who I need to send home," and so I'll send them home and heal them with healing energy, and that it usually does the trick. So that's my long-winded story about that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And sort of last question for myself right now. And divination, you've touched on it. The use of divination, and you've said cards or other things. What would be your go-to, like when you're facing tough, any serious case, a client or yourself, really tough questions? what is your go-to system of divination?
I actually have three systems I like. I enjoy the tarot, but I also enjoy the runes.
Okay.
Can plain old scrying, like I'll get a black bowl and put water in it and just like peer into it and see what I see. Because sometimes if we're reading the tarot, sometimes I think the images can influence us, and they're supposed to influence us. That's what they're for. So sometimes I'll throw down the runes and see what they say. I'm like, okay. And then if I'm really stumped, like, I don't know what's going on, I'll just peer into the blackness of the bowl and see what the spirits that tell me. But I also pray to like the spirits of divination, the spirits of the future, the three norns, the fates, things like that, to help me discern what I'm seeing. Because sometimes I'm like, oh look, an apple. Okay, what's that mean? And so I'm like, okay, spirits, tell me what it means, and they'll tell me. They're like, it means this and this. Oh, okay, thank you.
It's an easier conduction through water.
I mean, I think so, but it depends. Because sometimes I'm like, show me my path, and I'll take out the tarot. And other times I'm like, let me grab a bag of runes, see what they say. And so it depends how I feel. It depends what's going on, Right. I actually like a bibliomancy too. Like take a book and just open up to a random page and see what it says. I like to do that.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that. That's worked for me before.
And last question is we're falling in. Your from all the different traditions, your understanding or belief in the concept of destiny, where destiny is almost like a force of nature and something which person comes to earth with and must accomplish. What has been your the findings of the different traditions you practice? What is your personal feeling or belief on it?
So, my personal feeling is we're all here for a divine reason. Some of our reasons, like for myself, I'm a teacher, I'm a priest, I'm a healer. That's all the things I do. And for other people, it could be all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be, I'm a priest or I do magic. It can be, I work at, Target. Maybe, I mean, every single thing is sacred. And one of the things that they teach in Lakota is every breath and every footstep is a prayer. Every one. So whatever you are doing, even if it isn't your ideal job, like for example, if you're like, oh man, during COVID, I had to take a job at Target. Hey, that's sacred. It's putting food on your plate and taking care of your family. That's sacred work, But anyway, I think that I think we're all called here for a reason, and some of us accept the call, and some of us do not accept the call. I don't think you have to, but I also think that if you are going to live a rich, deep life, you answer the call. Like for me, if I don't answer the call, the spiritual call, I feel a hole in my heart, and it's unbearable for me. It feels almost painful, However, the difference between destiny and fate. Like destiny to me means, hey Chris, you're supposed to be a healer. However, it manifests is kind of up to you and your spirits. Fate, on the other hand, is like I was fated to become a massage therapist. I was fated to become a priest, but my destiny was to be a healer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like how it manifests. It's kind of like destiny is your main thing. It's like the overarching thing. In fate, you can have tons of little fates. You can have the fate of a situation. Like, for example, it was my fate to come on this show. Does it change anything? Does it? I don't know. I'm hopefully the people who are seeing this show are getting something out of it. But this is a part of my destiny as being a teacher and a healer. It's just one more thing. So that's how I see it. I also kind of believe, and I don't want to scare people, that if you have a calling for something and you reject the calling, I think that's where sickness and disease set in. Like, for example, if you're supposed to be a healer and you're like, no, I don't want to do that, I want to do something else. Half the time I've seen, with myself included, and some friends and clients, what happens? I hate my job, I hate my life, I hate my relationship, I'm not happy, I'm miserable, oh, I'm starting to feel sick and tired. Whereas if you find something that's empowering to you, and again, it doesn't have to be all grand. It doesn't have to be, I'm Superman. It can mean I'm a teacher. It can mean I'm a first responder. It can mean whatever. Or I do podcasts. Maybe it's that.
Right.
I don't know. When you answer that call, you're happier because we've all been there. We've all been there, especially in this group. Yep. I can tell that when you're doing the thing you love the most, but my Lord, you have not slept in 24 hours. You're exhausted. You're hungry, and you're like, I love this shit. You're just happy because you're doing what you love.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Chris.
Things happen, and if we have to work at a job we hate, just remember it's only temporary, and every breath and every footstep is a prayer to the spirits and to the gods, and just remember that, and by doing something like that, it's still sacred. It really is.
I think that's important, Chris. Thank you for bringing that up. It's true. I think people forget that, we're so inclined to sometimes, bemoan our life and what we're doing now and not happy and everything, instead of looking at the other side and looking at it, like you said, as a prayer. It's sacred what I'm doing, no matter what it is that you're doing. It is also a way of honoring yourself. Like you said, if it brings food to your table and you're able to express your spiritual side in a different way, so be it. And you know what? I think that's really important. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. I think that to me is key, what you said. And it's funny because it is a Lakota teaching. I remember years ago when we had one of my friends who's watching tonight, Chris, she'll know. She was the one who introduced me to Walking Thunder, and she's a Lakota medicine woman. And she had taught me a prayer, may you walk in beauty. May you walk in beauty every day. And that beauty is expressed in every which way that you take a step in life. And I think that's really key. I really do.
Yeah.
No, I thank you.
Well, part of the reason I even bring that up and talk about it is I see so many people, and I used to see it on Facebook all the time, people just gripe about their jobs and they hate everything. I can understand the frustration. I do. I've had some
I get it.
Poor situations that I hated, but at the same time, and this is also why I hate the term mundane. I hate that term. But, it's mundane. Like, no, your life is not ordinary. It's not basic. It's not mundane, because if you see everything you do as a sacred act, if you see your tools. Like, for example, I keep saying Target because I think I need to pick something up at Target for some reason. I don't know why I keep thinking about it. But say you're the person who rings people up. You have tools, and you're helping other people meet their needs. Like
Absolutely.
Like I'm telling people, find how you're helping someone else. Like, I have a good friend, and I don't want to say names, but he's like, "Oh, what's your job?" "Oh, my job is to help other people find a job." I'm like, "Wait, so you help people find their dream job? That is sacred." Oh my goodness, like, that's amazing. He's like, "Yeah, but it doesn't feel sacred." I'm like, "Okay, you gotta look at it
Look
from a different
beyond.
view. It's sacred. It's magical. It's amazing.
No, and Christine, one of our guests who's watching, my friend Chris. Hi, Chris. She had said, we are miracles. We definitely are. We are walking miracles, and we should always remember that and appreciate the sacredness that we are given a life. We are given life, and we are able to express ourselves, because it's so easy to talk every day in a muggle mundane world, right? But we forget that we are special individual human beings who connect with spirit, and that's important.
Yeah. Well, think about
No, I do.
our body's an altar, right? Think about it. I mean, you have
Thank you.
earth in your bones. You have air that you breathe. Water is your blood. And then fire, of course, is your energy, your spirit.
Your spirit, your passion. Absolutely. So, Jean-Jerome, are there any questions from the audience? Any other comments? Because I know my friend Chris is watching. This is Christina Pshibilski, who I had, oh my God, many, many, many years ago, had formed the Eastern European Kitchen Witches with. Yeah, hi, Chris. We are miracles. Yes, we are. She is my my good friend. I've known her for many, many years. God, 40 years, if not more. But anyway, I'm dating myself here.
Yeah.
Jean-Jerome, go ahead. Are there any
No,
questions?
right now, I've asked if anybody, I think everybody's being shy or they're mesmerized by the show, but they're not asking questions right now. But I have a good opportunity as we're coming close to the end of the second hour.
Yes, 10 o'clock. Yes.
Chris, tell us about, we know about your new book, Otherworld. What other upcoming events or training or what's coming down the pipe?
I haven't really thought about it because as I told you guys before, I'm going to grad school now for theology, so stuff like that. So, and plus, normally when a book comes out, I do a small local tour, and I'll do all the pagan tours and all that stuff, and I can't really do that now. So everything I do has to be online, but I may have
absolutely.
I'm thinking of, I'm brewing a contest in my head, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a free class to everybody who's purchased my book. I think I'm going to do that. Kind of a free online class, but the only caveat to that is they have to take a picture of themselves and post the link on their page to the book, and they'll get the free class. So
that's been done by a few authors, even in the Risha tradition. They've done that. Just requested, take a picture that you've got them, go, you purchased it, and then I'm happy to honor that as a class or support, what have you.
Yeah, and a part of it is that it's just like exposure, because my publisher now is Moon Books, MOON, and they're good, but they're not as big as say Llewellyn or Wisner, who spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on promos for people, where they do. My publisher does to promotions, but it isn't as big of a scale as the other publishers do. And so I'm happy to do my own publicity. I enjoy it. I enjoy people. I enjoy shows like this. I enjoy teaching.
Perfect.
My favorite things to do. So and plus I look at, if you support me, I would love to give you a gift like that, you know.
No, that's good.
No.
That's good. That's a good philosophy.
No, and of
Good
course,
way to grow your reputation, the name, and to grow a network, right? One of the reasons we did this show is so that people that follow, an indigenous belief system and have really spent on the spiritual work and helping their communities, helping their families, their countries and all that, but through their spiritual path, that let them know they're not alone and that they have kindred spirits, maybe practicing a different modality, but kindred spirits, and that we're here to support and promote and to be there for each other so that they don't feel so isolated sometimes or alone.
Well, it's interesting because I see on Facebook groups all the time, people are like, hey, can you help me find a teacher who knows how to work with the spirits? I can't find any. I'm like, oh, okay. So people don't know that we're here. People don't know about these traditions. People don't know that there's other things. And, and not to say that the mainstream paganism is lacking, because it isn't. It's just some people like a different flavor, and that's okay.
Right.
No. And okay, so Ken here, do you go to a sweat lodge on a regular basis, or at least prior to COVID?
Yeah, actually, I've actually been to, I can't even count how many sweat lodges, and each of the chiefs, we call them chiefs. We don't call them like spiritual leaders. We call them chiefs, and each of the chiefs, they have autonomy to the sweat lodge, however they choose. And I've had some chiefs who it feels like a nice sauna. I've had other chiefs who hate us and want us all to die of heat exhaustion. And so we try to go like once every month before COVID. And let me tell you though, it's the most, I think, one of the most powerful healing spiritual experiences. But sometimes it's tough because I can handle some heat, and
it is, Chris.
It's a design as a spiritual ordeal. The idea is that when you're quote unquote suffering because it's hot, when you're suffering, you're doing it as a sacrifice of yourself, of your comfort to the spirits, so that someone else can heal, or you're praying for somebody. The whole time you're praying and you're singing the sacred songs, but you're sweating. It's kind of like, let me suffer so my friend doesn't suffer from their sickness.
I see.
So you're doing it like that, and let me tell you, so like on the sweat lodge to where I am bred, not from heat, but from or I should say, not from the fire, but from the heat. And you get out, you feel like you are floating, you feel like you're flying on air, and it lasts for like 24 to 48 hours. In fact, sometimes we always have food after, because they will not let you drive home. You're grounded. That's how high on spirit you are. It's amazing.
No, true. I've done a couple of them myself, and I know how that feels. What's that?
Did they try to kill you with the heat?
The very first one I went to, yeah. I was dying. I was literally dying, and I thought, oh my God, I remember, I think what Ken Allaun says, how many doors do you usually do? We called it rounds. And after the first round, honestly, I remember falling to the ground, to the earth, and just literally melting into the earth, and I was covered in muck, but I was so hot. I remember just going, oh my God, I just want to feel the cool earth. It was something else. I had never experienced it. But by the third round, I was sort of like, oh my God, can we just get through this already? I'm done.
So my chief said this is true because one of the chiefs, he's hard, like he's hard, and I mean hard, because I went to his lodge and I turned to my friend, I'm like, "Are you kidding me with this?" And he's like, "Oh man." And so I
Like
said,
your
"Chief,
lungs are on fire.
it felt like, oh, you can't breathe." And I said, "Chief, I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time." That's what you say. And the chief, oh my God, he was amazing. He did this. He goes, "Okay." And I said, "Chief, no, I'm struggling, Chief." And he goes, "Okay, everybody stop talking, stop singing." And we all stopped. He says, "Okay, I want everybody to listen to the universe. I want you to listen to it right now." He goes, "You hear that sound in your head? Whatever that sound is, that's the universe." And he says, "Now, when you feel that pain, when you feel that suffering, when you feel that heat, hear the song of the universe in your head and start praying to that. And you pray like you've never prayed before, and you pray for everything, every person, every animal, everything. And by Lord, I felt great. It was amazing. I was like, this chief is amazing, because he was like, everybody stop, hear the universe. And it was just so good. I mean, he snapped us out of it. It was good. It was good.
Yeah. A good leader in a sweat lodge would know how to do that for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So Ken had a question, which I'm not familiar. How many doors do you usually do?
Usually 4, so one for each direction. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll do 5, and 5 is what they call the spirit round. The first round is for the east and south and so forth. But then sometimes for what they call the warriors, they'll do a spirit round. So if you are doing Sundance, or you have to do 5 rounds, like you have to do the spirit round, and that's because there's special. If you're going to sacrifice yourself for the Sundance, which is 4 days of no food, no water, dancing, and being pierced in the chest. But the 5th round is they call the spirits what to do certain things to your body and your spirit to prepare you for that 4-day ordeal. But you don't have to be in Sundance to do it. Like, everyone's invited, but you have to do it if you do Sundance. Like, I've never actually performed in Sundance before. I want to. I really do. But can I've done the 5th round before, and at least I did. I think by that time you're so high with spirit, like in the 5th round, I was like, "That's it. That's all you got." Let me have more energy. And
you're daunting, and
like, "No, you guys have had enough. You're done. Get out of the lodge. Go eat something."
You want a piece of me? You want a piece of me?
Right by that point, you're like, "Bring it, spirit. Bring it. I got you. I got this." Yeah. And spirit is going, "Ha ha, you're cute."
Okay. So yes, oh my God, we're like 10 minutes off past our 2 hour. I've enjoyed our conversation, Chris, immensely. And how can anyone get in touch with you? Let's say for any future classes, we'll definitely put them on Ancestral Eyes group. But how does someone get your book?
Chris, I'm telling you this, and also all our prior guests. Everybody's very polite, and I appreciate that. But the reason we did the Ancestral Eyes group is for everyone, especially our prior guests, to feel free to post any event,
Okay.
workshop,
Perfect.
book, or anything else. I mean, Teresa and I are constantly
So am I.
scanning, right?
And you know what? You even do duplicates, even, Jean-Jerome.
We're sharing. Yeah, exactly. We're sharing it. Sometimes a duplicate, right? Because I got it, oh, you got it. We both put it on.
And I delete his. I always I put mine up first, and then I go, oh, look at him. He's not even paying attention. Boom! I take his out.
You gotta love Teresa, eh? I'm gonna have to squash you, Teresa. That's it. I'm gonna have to squash you, deleting my post. But truthfully, or seriously, feel free. And to all our guests, any of our prior guests who are listening, feel free. Our home is your home. Ancestral Eyes Group is really meant to be a platform for sharing, for camaraderie, for helping each other to grow and supporting each other. So feel free to do that.
Okay. Perfect. I'll do that.
Chris, I have enjoyed this show. I've really enjoyed this show. I'm really glad we got a chance to talk and open up and get have everybody join in and understand it. Oh my God, here we go. Sorry, Chris, if you don't tune in every week, you have to know this is our show mascot. Okay, Beth, who is part of our show. This is her cat, Mojo. And he's also Jean-Jerome's godson.
One of our
That's awesome.
And so here he is watching our show. And there's his sister.
A little sister that's also watching.
Oh, so cute.
And that's Mojo. But he's been watching every single show. Every time the show comes on, these two, especially Mojo, the male, is always watching the show.
Oh my God!
And now TT does too.
I love it.
Now TT does too. So we wanted to acknowledge them, and thank you, Chris. It's been an honor, a pleasure to have you on board.
A quote.
Yes, go ahead.
Don't forget the quote. Chris, do you have a life quote or something that you live by or something that has meaning to you?
I only have a life philosophy. I don't have a quote. I have a philosophy.
Okay.
So basically, if you want something, go for it. And it's going to be frightening and scary, and it's going to be hard, and it'll probably hurt, but do it anyway.
Perfect. Absolutely. Oh, and there's Beth. Hey, almost since birth. What? What?
The Mojo's been watching almost his birth since he's only a couple of months old, right? So.
Right. Okay. But you know what? That's a great quote, Chris, because it's simple, it's to the point, and hey, everybody can relate to that one. Yeah. So thank you, Chris. Thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. And
many blessings.
Yes. I want a copy of your book, Chris. How do I go about that? Should I connect with you?
I'll send you one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We'll connect privately and tell me how much and whatever, and I'll give you my address, etc. and stuff. Yeah. So
sounds
I look forward to it.
All right.
No, cool. For sure.
So to everybody, be safe. Thank you for tuning in. And Chris, It's been a pleasure. And we apologize for that crackling noise. It seems to be outside of our control. Could be StreamYard or could be Mercury.
You know what? I think it's StreamYard. I thought it was like every so often, like the winds are really bad up here. And, every so often a branch hits my house. Like the last time I had to go out and I thought, okay, this is it. And then when I came back, all of a sudden, and then again, we lost the signal there. I lost the signal. So we apologize for that, but there's some things that are out of our control. So we can't do anything about it. So anyway.
Have a good night. Stay safe, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.
All right. Everybody. Bye-bye.